Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. If you follow me on Instagram, you know that yesterday I made a Substack, and it's a little bit more of a personal one. Typically on Substacks, all I post is my poetry, but I came across a poem in this little pink notebook that was pages upon pages long. When working on it, I wasn't really working on it in a way of like, I wanted to bring out the authenticity of it and the rawness of it. I was working on it in a way that I did most of my poems, where I would just cover the real meaning behind it, the real symbolism behind it, and try to dress it up with prose, because that's typically what I do with my writing, is dress up my poetry with prose and hope that people don't truly understand the real meaning beneath each poem. So then I wrote a Substack pretty much delving into this concept that your messy and raw and brutally honest poems are perhaps the best ones. If you want to check it out, my Substack is linked in my Instagram, and my Instagram is Marie Writes. But today we're just going to delve into it, so you really don't have to go see it because I'm going to cover it all here. The title of this Substack is called The Margins of a Little Pink Notebook. This notebook had accompanied me throughout my senior year. I started it in July of 2025. It stayed with me all of senior year till now. I start college in a week. This is really just like encapsulating everything that I went through during that period. One of the ways that I got through it all was through writing poetry. When I went back to read a lot of these, I realized that yes, I did publish a lot of the poems I wrote, but the thing is I would completely transform the poem so that way nobody could really understand what I was implying within each poem. This is just gonna be a whole little video devoted to reading poetry and talking about poetry. I guess like a self-exploration, but not only for me, for young girls as well. The first poem I published on my Substack was a poem that I had written for my creative writing class. It was always really difficult for me to read my poetry aloud or any of my writing aloud in that class because I was so scared of what my classmates would think. I don't know if anybody here has ever been to like a preppy charter school, but a lot of people have their noses in the air and they look down upon you if you don't fit their criteria. I was really scared of letting people see my writing. I blocked everybody I knew from school from my writing page, and in creative writing class, I really was just there to have time to write. I didn't want to learn anything from the class. I didn't really want to share my writing or read other people's writing. I just wanted a space to write. And it wasn't until junior year that I kind of started participating in the class. Our prompt for this poem was to Google like a fun fact and choose to write a poem about it. I wrote my poem on how eating people can actually kill you. It is not surprising in the slightest to learn we are dangerous even in death. That the body feigns innocence in frigid limbs and firmness. There is something ironic in it. Cannibalism as a curse on the consumer, the gentle glutton, who does not devour a person the way wolves do, but begins politely, a mouthful at a time, skin parted, muscled, unfastened, the sacrilege of teeth meeting tissue, pressing one's lips to your own and savoring the taste of blood. I believed intimacy meant incorporation, that if I tasted you cautiously enough, you would not poison me. How wrong the clever are. To consume a person is to accept their weather whole, their damp Novembers steeped in soggy shoes, their inherited catastrophes, keening in a parking lot, and their genius for self-destruction. You attempt to approach the carcass academically, medically, carefully, with a detached demeanor and an upturned nose. You try to psychoanalyze, you try to understand, you try to eat them without getting killed. But soon your body begins spelling their name in foreign, intimate cursive. You reach in their absence and hear them humming in the pit of your stomach. They shun the consumer, the foolish mortal who mistook affection for nourishment and swallowed arsenic dressed as devotion. But again, this one, like I said, is very prose-laced, and it's not one of my most popular because it's not something that is raw in that sense. It's not something that you can truly relate to, because genuinely, a lot of people would read this poem and have no clue what I'm talking about. It's very hard to understand what I'm saying. The next one, same thing, but I love religion. I love the concept of religion, and I love the idea of a false god or like a god who's actually evil. I discovered God the way forlorn women discover cruel men. He came to me lacquered in false luminance, a gilded cruelty steepled in the noon's indifferent blaze, his eyes 2, 3, 4 exquisite catastrophes of collapsing stardust, his chest cross-hatched with the golden rays down to his calves, his hooves. So that, firstly, is to showcase that there's a God before her. But even though he's beautiful and he's got, you know, the golden rays across his chest and stardust in his eyes, it follows him all the way down to his calves, his hooves. And I wanted to say hooves there because when I was Googling what like the devil looked like, it says that he has hooves. So I kissed the iron cool crescent of his feet and savored the metallic lake in which he stood, the aesthetic of infancy, of curated helplessness, he, the correct collector of galaxies as butterflies, pinning their soft infinities to velvet silence, only to kiss them after their burning, after their hydrogen cries have dimmed to something easier to digest. I dragged myself nearer, a cavager with ambitions of resurrections, begging breath from the very mouth that had so amorously drowned me. I like this part the most. His indifference left my soul pacing its ribbed enclosure, a tiger grown intimate with its own bones, gnawing not from hunger alone, but from the boredom of abandonment. Take my doubt, I whispered, and give me nothing. I think that the picture being painted is so beautiful. He threaded his hand into my hair. It settled at the nape of my neck. And then the universe collapses into flavor. During my senior year of high school, I was enlightened a lot to people's true colors, especially when I got close to them. All throughout school, I think everybody was very cliquey. Everybody kept their own groups and kept their friendships. I mean, throughout all of high school, people really didn't drift from friend groups that much at all. But towards the end of the year, people started being more open and realizing like we're graduating, we're never going to see each other again, especially when we started going on senior trips together, being forced to room with people that you usually hadn't interacted with prior. It really showcased to me that the people that I viewed as gods weren't gods. Then we have The Moral Quandaries of a Teenage Girl. And this one is the one that is the most popular, which makes sense because it's probably the only poem in which case I was actually real. I didn't dress it up with prose or anything. I talked about how stupid I felt for being so interested in the social aspect of high school, to not really know what was going on politically or economically, to go from being so invested in all of this stuff to not invested in all because I got boy crazy. So this was where that came from. There are things less personal to consider. Politics, economics, debate of theocracy or Aristotle, and yet I return again and again to the same fluttering in my throat, the same question of if or when. Will I speak or die today? Will I consult a coin and permit chance to decide whether or not I will do whatever action I had been afraid of taking? This is very accurate to me. I would flip coins often to decide, like, do I text him? Do I not text him? Will a raised voice undo me? Will a sideways glance bloom monstrously in memory until it devours my sleep? Will some careless classroom comment or the foreign, untranslatable inevitability of the future gnaw at me until uncertainty becomes a parasite beneath my ribs, never lulled to sleep by the rapid beat of my heart? A foreign, untranslatable inevitability of the future, this was something that was battering my skull day and night. I was so scared because I had gone from being this person who had everything figured out and knew exactly what I wanted to do and who I was and what I wanted to be, to this person that had no idea who she was, lost all of my self-esteem and a lot of my confidence, but I know the answer already. I abandoned the moral labyrinth with embarrassing haste for a bright little cafe afternoon where I discuss boys and girls with an attention I rarely grant to wars. I am, I assure you, a creature of intelligence, even refinement. And I use the phrase a creature of intelligence a lot throughout my poetry. That's how I want to see myself. That's who I want to be perceived as somebody who's very smart and somebody who carries themselves well and somebody who knows a lot of things. And so to want to be perceived like that and then have almost every conversation be about how I'm acting like a bird or what color I should do my nails felt just undermining to me. To go from being somebody who talked so much about Aristotle and theology and politics and economics, and somebody who had no problem going into these subjects and debating these topics, and somebody who was confident in her opinion and could pull up statistics without hesitation, to this little nervous wreck who wouldn't debate it or talk about it because she was worried about her opinion being seen as stupid, or she was worried about the rumors that would arise with what she said, or the way people would perceive her when she got too passionate during a debate. Yet my conversations betray me, and my poetry relates too closely to the very minuscule problems of a teenage girl. It's true. My poetry up until this point was about the very minuscule problems of a teenage girl, and I felt so selfish and stupid because I hadn't picked up a book in months. I just kept rereading Lolita or my own book. I just felt like I wasn't growing intellectually at all. And so all my poetry related to that and that alone. When I wish it could relate to bigger problems in the world, I would love to write papers for like the New York Times on like problems and stuff. That's what I wanted to do. I would read journals and such of very intelligent women going to foreign countries and talking about the environment they're in, and like how women in some of these countries have to go to school and bleed through their skirts because they can't afford menstrual products. It's not an option for them. There's so many problems out in the world, way bigger than my little did he text me back mind. And it's like I just felt so sad because I felt like I had lost the purpose of my life, and the purpose being to notice things, to not be apathetic to situations, to not worry so much about how I look or what so-and-so is saying about me. Ridiculous, transparent girl. Does ignorance truly possess that rumored sweetness, or is it merely sugar dissolving too quickly on your tongue? Next poem I wrote was published in May, so this is a little bit before I graduated. It's a really good poem, but it's so dressy, and I can go into every single line of this poem genuinely. I talk about how it returns when there's like a harshness outside because it has no other option. I talk about how an ice-ribbed mongrel slinks back again and again to its own sour vomit. I say whatever it's returning to isn't grand, it's actually compared to vomit. There's also the idea of licking up your own vomit that seems like repetitive. Throw up and you lick it again, and you throw up and you lick it again, and that's what I wanted to portray the most in this poem. When no one keeps it, it nosies back to the doorway where it is reminded of the boot toe, the thrown bottle, the brief mercy of a hand descending only to strike. Still it returns, rib thin and shivering, dragging behind it the long intestine of memory, like a bridal train through filth. So it presses against my door, damp flanks shivering in the dark, as a tongue returns to a socket where a tooth once ached. When the door opens and my hand outstretches, it crawls forward to lick the wound of it anyway. Tongue first, eyes lowered. The owner is quite mean to the dog. The dog lashes out, ends up biting the owner. The owner throws the dog outside. The dog moseys around outside, trying to find somebody to love it, but nobody wants to take it home. Nobody loves it. Everyone thinks it's ugly and brash and bruised. So then after wandering around and nobody wants it, it'll come back to its abuser. As an apology, it'll lick away the wound. They're both hurting each other like a cycle. Like this cycle keeps repeating. Then I have spite lives in it like a second pulse. It bites before it barks. Slashes with tooth and with that cunning tongue. It's also very smart. This is like an emotional abuse as well as physical abuse. And I discover bleeding before the pain has properly bloomed. This is to showcase that the reaction is predicted, that this happens a lot. It creeps close upon its padded feet with its head bowed and its eyes lowered. This is to showcase that it's apologetic and it wants to make things right again. The concept of tongue first, eyes lowered, it has a sensual connotation to it. I wanted it to be like... Okay, how raw do I want to be on this channel? I think I'm gonna be raw. It's my channel, who cares? No, 7 people are gonna see this. Okay. I wanted it to showcase that it was like this sexual act almost of as like an apology. Like, here's this for like an apology for hurting you. The last one I wrote is a poem that's very personal to me. I think that I'm going to make it a little coherent and post it on my Substack because I think I owe it to my senior year self to be able to do that. But I talk a lot about in the poem about how I would cut out my own tongue if it meant I kissed better. It would pluck out all my teeth, wanting to give everything that you could possibly give so that way you wouldn't have to give the one thing that you know they want. This is really just for my female audience. I have a lot of opinions about sex and intercourse and intimacy. I see it as a very big thing, and I see it as something that is very soul tying and like binding. And I think in high school, and I think in early college too, the concept of sex is twisted to make it seem like casual, so that way it can be casual, you know what I mean? And I don't fault any women who have casual sex. I don't think that that's an issue if you enjoy doing it. But what I do think is an issue is being pressured to do it by society, by your partner. That was one of the really big problems I faced during high school, was this constant reminder in my head that like everybody else is having sex, and I felt so far behind because I wasn't. I just wanted to say, like, if you're young, don't sacrifice your morals for other people, especially not a boy, to be somebody who guards your heart in that way. I think it's very respectable. So this poem really like delved into just like me being in a place where it's like I would have given everything else besides that. I could invert myself entirely, turn soul into surface and surface into wound, let you inhabit me in the way you've always wanted, and it still would not be enough. This is one of the best poems I've ever written. It's one that I, refused to share because I was just so embarrassed of like the concept of like wanting to give so much to somebody in that sense. But I think that I owe it to myself to publish it to any girls who might be relating, instead of making it some like mopey, here's what's going on in my life, but you're never going to be able to really understand because I'm dressing it up with so much prose that you won't understand. I instead want to just deliver like this raw concept because I think a lot of girls around my age can understand that. So yeah, that is the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed just this little ramble of me going through my poetry and talking to you guys a little bit about how the high school experience was for me, and I hope some of you can relate, and I hope that this helps a lot of you with any problems that you might be facing right now. It's gonna get better. I don't want to like get emotional, but high school for me was really hard, and I was in a really dark place in my life. And I tried to continue writing and to continue to produce content and just, try to be like this happy person. I think there's this really big concept that's pushed a lot onto us, not only as like a creator, but I think a high school girl too, is like you want to be the person everybody wants to be, and the person everybody wants to be doesn't struggle, and they don't cry, and they don't have bad days, and they don't have really dark moments, and they don't spend lunch in the bathroom doing their makeup over and over again because they don't want to sit alone at lunch. Sorry, I'm trying not to tear up. I just wanted you guys to know that I'm not always perfect, and I'm not always super duper classy. I am that way most of the time, and I do want to like pat myself on the back for being able to like go out there and still be strong, I guess. But I was the weird kid too, guys, and high school was really, really hard for me. And so if anybody's in that same boat, I just want you to know that you can reach out to me and you can talk to me, because I'm not like entirely who I portray myself to be online. I had my own problems, and a lot of self-doubts, and a lot of confusion of just who I was and like what I wanted to be at that time. And so I hope that this video helped you guys, and I hope to start being more real and raw on this channel and my Instagram and my Substack as well. So thank you all so much for watching. I love you guys.